Well, welcome back into the studio for another Technique Tuesday, and I was on a roll with the tissue fodder and just kept investigating and found another one that I really needed, or another two that I really wanted to share with you. So this will be a little shorter than the last tissue because we went through a lot of different techniques, and this time we're gonna just really focus on two basic techniques. So the first of which is using our old baby wipes. So baby wipes you've used to clean up. You can even use a kitchen towel for this. But the baby wipe is nice because it's more of a fabric type of base instead of the fabrics that we had used in the past, the cheesecloth, the burlap, the muslin. These are just ways to use your old ones, and that is ones that have a little bit of paint on them, or going so far as to using the ones that have lots of paint on them, because as you can tell, they are fabulous for making into pieces of almost like cloth-like that can actually be used for your cover of a journal or pages in a journal, or you can still rip this down and use it as collage fodder. And on this piece you can see I've added some printed napkin tissue along with second generation tissue and added some colors, and I'm going to talk about that. We're gonna need to pull out our plastic pieces that we worked on again, and any old baby wipes you might have that have color or may not. So and either of those, we have a couple different techniques. I'm gonna be showing you this one and another one that is going to be super fun. And then the next one we're going to do after we do the baby wipes is we are going to do something that's like this. It's really fine. I don't know if you can really see how much you can see through that. There you go, that's better. You can really see through this. This is very thin. Again, it is a fabric-based base, and I've gone over it with some tissue, printed and non-printed, added some color, and that was done using our old fabric softener sheets. This is what's left over after you've run your dry cycle with the fabric sheet in there, and these you just end up going to the landfill, throwing them away. And this is a way that we can make some, what I'm calling tissue fabric fodder. I have a whole bag of the stuff that I've been making of that, and these are things that you can find from the first video that we've made, and I'll link that video up above, and different fodder, tissue fabric fodder. And so here we are again doing the tissue fodder 2. So additional, I didn't want to let go of this. I've been on a roll, and I just am excited to share it with you. So really basic stuff, the exact same type of principles, except for this time we have a two new of the fabric type backgrounds that we're going to apply to this, and I actually have a couple different techniques I would like to really share with you. Something new I discovered that I think you're going to really like, and I can't wait to show those to you. So let's get started. Let me get this all cleared and get set up, and we're gonna get started with the baby wipes. So get your baby wipes out and your plastic pads and your school glue. I like the Elmer's because it goes further, it's thicker, so when I water it down, I actually am doing double time. It takes me a lot longer to go through the Elmer's, even though it's slightly more expensive. But you can use the generic brand, like the ones that you find at Dollar Tree and Family Dollar, except for you do not want to water them down as much as what I will do with this. So that is what we're gonna need, and let me get switched over. All right, so we're gonna start with this plastic cutting board. I will list all products down below as per usual, and we're gonna start off with the less paint on them baby wipes, and then we'll do some that have more paint on them, but for this one I want less. And I have in this container, I have some water and I have some glue. I'm going to get this mixed in, and then I'm going to probably be adding a little bit more glue. It's about 50-50. If you're using Elmer's glue, it's 50-50 glue to water. So I'm going to add a little bit more glue here because that wasn't quite 50-50. And this glue in this big container has lasted me quite a long time. So that's been good because it's been doubled by using the water addition, but we really don't want it too thick because it doesn't really work well for this technique anyways. Yeah, so that's where we're gonna get started. I prefer to use the glossy side of this mat facing towards me. I like how it releases. So we've got our glue ready. You can see it's pretty soupy. It still could use to be a little bit more mixed in, but that's gonna happen. And so glossy side up on the plastic mat or whatever you're using. And I like to put a layer down. And I'm sure this is kind of hard to see without a white background. It may be. Actually, no, you can pretty much see it there. And I'm just going to put an initial coat down. We are going to be doing lots of different layers of items and then glue between everything. So you end up using a lot of glue. Hence why I like to use this brand. It goes longer. Okay. And is a consistency I really like. So you put your first layer of glue down. And for those of you that watched the first tissue fodder, you will know this already. And then you lay whatever your fabric medium is. In this case, we're using baby wipes this time. And get this one out. You can overlap if you want to. It's not really necessary to do that method. There we go. I'm going to trim this up just so we don't have all this wicking fluid out from the mat. I like to leave a little border for that purpose specifically, because the fabric will wick out different color mediums that you use, as well as the glue, and make for a big mess. I'm not the cleanest person, but I do like to have that kind of under wraps, if you will. This is starting to dry up. Well, no, it's not. It's pretty good. And as you can see, this baby wipe, some of these have like a pattern. Sometimes you can see them more. That is also fun. Little surprise. Kind of like when you use kitchen roll, it'll be the same way. I like to use the kitchen roll, but not as the fabric part of this, but as the tissue part. So that's fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. right, and our last piece. All right. So now I'm going to go over this with another layer of glue. I really want this, one thing this does, not only hold everything together, but it really firms things up. Especially if you use these as covers for any journals, then it is really nice to have that stiffness to work with. And I am just going to kind of get all this, the fabric of the baby wipe or the material of the baby wipe kind of moistened with this glue water mixture. It doesn't have to be soupy or drenched, just moistened. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna prep our tissue part of this sandwich. And you wanna separate them from their back pieces. And some have 2 layers, some have 3. And you don't have to put it on as one full piece. You can do it in, rip it apart, kind of lay it on top and start to press that down a bit into the baby wipe that is already been pretty saturated. And we're once again gonna go over this with the glue. We're gonna do another layer. Like I said, this is lots of layers. And you want to make sure your brush is pretty moist. You don't want to let it get dry, because then it'll pull up the napkin. I like to work kind of from the center and then move my brush out to the edge. I love the wrinkles. This is one of my favorite things about this, is how much texture you get out of using this method. It makes for great texturized visually as well as actual texture for collage fodder. They make great pieces to cut from, to give yourself focal points, to do layering up of a focal point. So while it's wet, I really like to do things like add my color. So that's what I'm going to do next. I will be using some Marabou Art Spray. This is in Bordeaux. I like to have my water bottle handy. I like it to wick in. So I like to come from the edge and just use the tip and apply the color, add water, and let it wick in. Now, the Marabous are light fast and they will dry permanent. They are water-based. They are an acrylic product. You can use a paintbrush for this. Now, to do in the center, you just basically do the same thing, but you just create a point of intense color and saturate it with water. Now that we have our color added, the next phase I wanted to do with this is try something new. So we're going to use some fabric fiber pieces. So this is a piece of fabric that I had torn apart at one time and then went to go pull it out, and there was a piece of it, a smaller piece, that had unraveled, and I have been hoarding it. So I thought this was a good opportunity to try this out. So I'm going to apply it to the surface in across different areas and use the glue to adhere it to the surface. And now I'm going to take the glue, and this brush is a Princeton Select. It is got a very firm bristle to it, so it enables me when I'm collaging and doing this, I can press the fibers down as I saturate it with the glue. So I want to really get it to have a lot of surface that's just really adhered to the tissue, or the napkin in this case. right, now I'm gonna get cleaned up and get ready for our second technique using the colored baby wipes. You'll notice these are stiffer because of course they have acrylic paint that has dried in them or other mediums, and that presents some fun texture that's going to happen from all these wrinkles. So I am going to lay these down just like we did before, leaving a little border, and I'm going to put down quite a bit of the glue because I want it to hold this baby wipe down, and because of all this added texture it's going to take a little bit more glue to do that. So I am going to come over the top immediately after each one. I just don't want them to move about as I'm piecing these together onto our plastic mat. Again, glossy side up with the wipe to the glossy side. I am going to come in with some more of this tissue paper. I do carry this in my shop. I am going to cut down to fit on this. Does not have to be perfect. I have found that this tissue is very strong. It's not water strength tissue or whatever they call it. It seems to be a very strong. So when you're pushing the tissue down, just like with the napkin, you want to kind of go from the center and pull out. You want to make sure that your brush is very wet or else it's going to pull. You want to apply enough glue to where you create the translucency of the tissue, where you lose this white color and it becomes more translucent and shows the color from the baby wipes coming through. Now, similar to the last one, we're going to come in and I'm going to add some threads. I am going to come in with this handful of threads and just start kind of shaving them, let them fall where they will, like a little sprinkle of that color coming through. If you don't want them to be cut up, you just lay them down. You can also come in with yarn, and the fun thing with the yarn, like the fabric that we used on the last one, is you can get some really fun texture out of that as well. All right, and so now on this one, I'm actually going to do something a little different. I am going to come in with this watered down coffee. This is coffee, it's actually espresso crystals. And I'm going to go in here and just add a little bit of this in areas, and then I'm going to come in with more of this glue and pat down our pieces of yarn and thread. This time we're going to be using the dryer sheets. I'm going to show you two different techniques on doing this. So I've put a thin layer of glue down and then added the dryer sheets on top. I don't worry about them overlapping. They're so thin. I don't worry about wrinkles or anything like that. Any added texture is just a bonus plan in my book. So now that that's down, I'm going to go ahead and add some color now. So I'm going to add the color between the dryer sheet before I put a napkin on it. I'm going to go ahead and add some color to this. Some of the Dina Wakley Glossies. So I'm going to actually add a little bit of water to this. I want it to bleed out a little bit more. Give it a little encouragement to move around. All right, so the next thing we have to do is pull the layers of this napkin apart, the single layer, and lay this down on top of our mixture. I'm not going to worry about wrinkles. Now you're going to see it's going to come through a lot because we added a lot of liquid to that, but don't be misled in thinking that you don't need to add glue to this layer, because you do. Once this dries, if there's not enough glue, it's just going to pocket right back up again. And just like we've done before, we're going to come in with the glue more towards the center and make sure our brush is very wet and with a really gentle, not pushing real hard. I'm gonna do the same thing with this napkin. And the neat thing with this, and Hope can see the color on the other side, and you'll get to see that when it dries. Onward to our final sample of doing the dryer sheets. We're going to do the same thing we did before, adding a little bit of glue to the plastic mat, add our dryer sheets, add a second layer of glue. As always, I seriously encourage you to do your own play and experimenting. And don't let it stop at the dryer sheets. Try and find other things that are in our everyday that we can keep out of the landfill and use in our art. It is a lot of fun. Our experimentation in general is awesome. All right, so what we're gonna do next is I have this napkin. It is a very thick napkin. It is one layer. It's got like a texture to it, like it's all one piece. And I am going to actually rip out these flowers and rip them out like this. Now you've probably seen where people take a water brush and they get it wet and they go around the tissue or napkin to pull it apart. On this one, that doesn't work very well because this one is so thick. I find it's a lot easier to just rip it by hand. I'm going to take some leftover tissue, crumple it up, and rip that up to use as well. So I'm going to lay these down, these flowers down, but I'm going to lay that down with more glue. It is going to really soak up. We're going to use a lot of glue on this one because this type of napkin that I have will soak up a lot of liquid. So it really depends on what kind of napkins you have, how much glue you use, if you're using fabric, or like I said, the dryer sheets are really thin. And then the next thing we're going to do is come in with our tissue pieces and fill in some of the gaps. We are going to come in with some distress oxide. Now, important thing to remember with these is they do move. They will move once they get water or something liquid gets on them. So it's something to keep in mind when you're working in the future. The glue will sometimes help with making that slower to happen, but it's something to keep in mind. You can also spray this before you go to use it in the future as fodder with some spray fix, and that will assist you in slowing down the process of it being reactive. I love how this wicks out, and if you want to get it to spread out even more, you can add a little water. And this is really soft, but I am going to come in with a bit brighter and use this just for a little pop of color. I don't want to get too carried away. It'll take over. And then I'm going to come in with some water and give it some encouragement and let it wick out. So we've got a little bit of a pop going there. Just flipping this over to show you how some of that color is coming through on the back. All right, so these have dried overnight and it's just gonna peel off real easy. You can see these tear really easy, just like fabric, probably easier than that. And this is the first baby wipe one that we did. This is the second baby wipe one we did where we used colored baby wipes. On this one we used the dryer sheets as well as some napkin and glossy sprays. All right, and then this one was also the dryer sheets, but I tore out tissue paper and napkin, and I really want to add some more of this bright. So I'm gonna come in here and really moisten the areas where I'm going to add that. Encourage it to do its thing. All right, I'm going to set this aside to dry and we'll come back once that it's dry and take a look at it. All right, this has had an opportunity to dry. I did end up using this floral piece on for a background on a Rolodex card, and I've added the footage here so you can just see how I use that. I adhered it to the Rolodex card and then I started arting further on top of it.